Hi guys, welcome back. This is Module 6, Lesson 2. We are in your brand new homework book. You are doing the homework problems with me instead of the problem sets. We are learning how to construct a coordinate system on a plane, which is why it's very handy that I have this grid paper right now. If you have any at home, I suggest you use it too. It'll make drawing lines a lot easier. I want you just to open up by looking at this drawing here and telling me what you think it reminds you of. Pause the video, take a close look, and see if it reminds you of anything. All right. Maybe you said that it reminds you of two number lines. And that's exactly right. These are two number lines that form a perpendicular angle. This is a 90-degree angle. Remember, two perpendicular lines meet together to form a 90-degree angle. And that's what this is. But it's also something else. It's the first quadrant of your coordinate graph. So we call this in geometry quadrant 1, or I would just label it quad 1. And it's cool because we get to use Roman numerals here. So to show 1, I'm going to draw the Roman numeral 1, quad 1, quadrant 1. These are all positive values on our number line. Next year, you'll learn about negative values, and you'll construct an even bigger coordinate system, and it will include negative values. But for now, we're in quadrant 1, and we're just looking at positive values. And there's some things you should know. The first thing you should know is what I've already taught you from lesson 1, that this 0 represents the point of origin. This is where your graph begins, at the point of origin. So every time we're finding values, we're finding them in terms of how far away from 0 they are. The second thing you should know is that each of these number lines has a name. This vertical number line is called the y-axis. How do I remember that? How did I remember it when I was your age? I always drew my y in y-axis as a capital Y because the tail on my y is straight up and down. It's vertical. So that always reminded me that that's what the y-axis, where the y-axis was, the one that followed the vertical line in my y. And then over here is the x-axis. All right, this is the horizontal axis. You have a y-axis running vertically, and you have an x-axis running horizontally. Maybe you're reminded right now of the game Battleship. So you need to know the point of origin, that your number line for now begins at 0, and it runs up and down along the y-axis and back and forth horizontally in the x-axis. And we're going to start to think about, well, how could we plot points on this coordinate graph? How could we put something somewhere on this to show its distance, its relationship to 0? So the first thing I've asked you to do is to place a star on the coordinates 4, 4. These pairings right here are called coordinate pairs, and they have to follow a specific order. Imagine that this is a treasure map. In order to follow the treasure map, you'd have to follow the same directions each time. The same thing is true here. Every single coordinate pair begins with the x value, and then it goes to the y value. And that makes sense because in the alphabet, the letter x comes just before the letter y. So that's one way you can remember it. So if I want to place a star on the coordinates 4, 4, well, then I have to start at my point of origin, and I have to count down the x-axis 4 places and then go up 4 places. That would allow me to place a point on 4, 4. What about a kite on the coordinates 8, 2? Well, I'd have to start at 0 and go all the way down to 8 and then up to 2. Finish the rest